So we have a new series getting ready to start up because there's a really important date on the calendar coming up here soon.
That's right.
And so I don't know if anybody knows or is aware that Easter Sunday is quickly approaching.
April 4th.
April 4th. Would you believe that? And it's literally almost April. I can't believe that is true either.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we have started to experience a little bit of warmer weather, which is always a beautiful thing. I love that.
I'll take it.
I will absolutely take it. I'm excited for that for sure. And so with Easter Sunday coming up, we're kicking off a new series. And I wanted you to kind of tease that just a little bit. Obviously, you can't divulge too much information because the series hasn't even started yet, and we don't want to give the whole thing away. I mean, we could literally probably sit here and talk about the whole thing, and then there'd be nothing left to say on Sunday. We don't want to do that.
Right.
But we have a new series coming up that I know I'm excited about, and I know that some other people I've talked to are excited about because it will allow us to approach a topic that maybe you don't necessarily talk about in church, not because it's one of those taboo things, but it's more like literally the title is the series is entitled "Crazy Things I Heard at Church," right? Like, who would want to talk about all the weird and silly things that we've heard, either at church or we've heard church people say,
right? Right. Well, and if I were to tease this, I would say, don't think that every Sunday we're going to whip out the very thing that you heard at this weird church service one time in your life. We're not going to do some of those kind of things as much as you might think, although there's a lot of those out there.
There are.
And so we will actually bring some of that up. But the whole idea is that, you have these concepts in your mind about what you think church may be about. And even people who maybe go to church all the time, or I say go to church, they go to the services all the time, and they're there, they listen to everything that's going on, and they may pick up on some of it, but, a goofball like me, steps up there and says something, and it doesn't make sense to them, and they're like, what? And it's just, it's crazy. That seems crazy to me to hear that. Well, we're kind of taking some of those, and then we're doing the antithesis to it.
Okay.
And it actually, things that people would say, boy, I just wish a church would say that. I wish a church would say that. And it's actually, in a way, when you look at where church has been for a long time, we always make a big deal about it, that our church is for, the big FOR, man. That's who we are. It's what we're about.
Absolutely.
We're for our neighbors. We're for our community. We're for people. That's who we are. Well, the reason we took that on was we had heard this, that there were churches that were saying, we want to be for because the church has got a bad reputation sometimes of being against everything.
Yeah.
And we want to be known for what we're for, not what we're against.
Right.
And that sure gives us a lot more open opportunities to be able to share, the whole idea. So that's kind of the thought of the series is we want to say the crazy things that you heard at church. And yes, we're going to bring up some of those things that people have heard and people use even as excuses to not go or to be a part of it, or I can't belong to something like that because they do this or whatever. I mean, all kinds of statements that float out there. But then there's always a positive antithesis to it that's like, I wish the church would say something like that. That would be crazy to me if I really thought that the church would say that.
Yeah.
I think I could belong to a church if they said that. I think I could be a part of this faith thing. If God was like that, I could be part of that.
Yeah.
So that's the things we want to kind of take the weird things, and then we want to make the antithesis to it.
Right.
To be, these are the things we really wish church would say, and they might seem crazy in a way.
Some of them might.
Yeah.
I mean, even Easter coming up, that's a crazy thing in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Somebody once told me at church that a guy actually died and rose from the dead. And that's a crazy thing for somebody to say, but it actually did happen.
Yeah, but I mean, most people who have no connection, let's say you have no connection to church, you immediately hear that somebody died and rose from the grave, Yeah. You're immediately thinking vampires.
Right, yeah, something weird, like the undead of some kind.
Yeah, you're thinking zombies or something.
Right.
And actually had nothing to do with that at all. Yeah. And it's not a horror story at all.
No.
It's an incredible moment in history where things turned around for the human race there.
Yeah.
And it was because of Jesus and what he did. So, most people will say the antithesis is, or the statement out there is I just, there's no hope after this life. I mean, there's nothing after this life. There's just this.
Yeah.
And that's really not true. There's so much more, and Jesus proved that.
Sure did.
So.
He absolutely did. And So just for some fun, you kind of gave one of them right there, but I want to have a little bit of fun here. What are some of the crazy things that you imagine people have probably heard at church? Maybe you yourself have heard some crazy things at church. I know that I have. I've heard some wild things, and I've been in church most of my life. And
yeah, you know, I have things that I've written down over the years and just remembered.
Yeah.
You know, of things like that. But things like you know, if you smoke cigarettes and you drink beer, you're going to hell.
okay, yeah,
You know,
yep.
That's the line.
Wait, that's not true.
Yeah. It's not true.
It's
okay?
not true. I'm
All
just kidding.
But here's the thing. You know, some people have heard that, or they think that that's the case. Then it leads to another one that you've got to be complete. You have to be completely cleaned up. You have to get your life straightened up. You have to put on the best clothes, and you have to have everything in order. And you have to be pretty much a perfect person to be able to actually walk in the doors of a church building.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And I mean, that's
No, I've
crazy.
I've literally heard a person tell me that they, you know, I invited them to come to church. They said they would love to come to church, but they can't because the place would probably just spontaneously combust if they came there. And they were saying it sort of tongue in cheek, but I think sort of honestly too, because their perception is, well, that's such a holy place that if a horrible, wicked person like me were to come there, there would just be this clash of, you know, literally, you know, the creation couldn't contain it, couldn't deal with it. And it's like, yeah, no, but I mean, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all that. And so it doesn't burst into flames when I show up. It's not going to burst into flames when you show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things too is the crazy things is that you have to believe every word in the Bible to actually be able to walk in the doors.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that say, I don't know if I can swallow everything. A lot of it has to do with not maybe understanding it, or maybe they've heard something that's different about it. But for the church to say, look, you got to believe every word in this book.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Start to finish, every single word of it. And you've got to believe it the way I do, because there might
exactly
be different takes on it.
And there's things in there that you don't understand, and so just let me explain it to you.
Yeah.
You know, and not giving people an opportunity to actually learn it themselves or figure it out themselves. And quite honestly, God can stand on His own. He doesn't need us to explain Him. But I think a lot of times the church has been known for being against people who won't swallow everything first before they start to explore. So, you know, it's you can belong before you believe.
You absolutely can. In fact, I think it's incredibly important that you are able to do that, because no matter how young of an age you may have, you know, I became a believer in Jesus as my Lord and Savior at a very young age, but there still was a point where it was like, I don't know if I buy all of this, right? Like, what? Even if it's when you're 5 years old, 10 years old, 40 years old, there has to be a point in time where you're able to go to church despite the fact that you're like, I'm just still not really sure.
Yeah.
Who's going to know everything they need to know in order to come to church, in order to actually come in the first place? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Think On It podcast. If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, or just click on the link below to listen to the entire episode. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.